Good evening, sleep traveler. I'm glad you've arrived. Take a deep breath, turn off the lights if you can, and settle down wherever you are. The world outside can wait a little. Here, time moves slowly. Today I'm going to tell you an old story, one of those that begins with a whisper between gods and ends with cities in ruins. It's called The Judgment of Paris and the Trojan War, a story about small choices that turn into huge tragedies, about vanity, desire, and silence. If this story touches something inside you, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, but only if you want to. The Temple of Sleep doesn't demand fidelity, just presence. Let's prepare our bodies and minds. If you can, close the curtains, dim the lights, put your cell phone on airplane mode. Maybe a light blanket or the soft sound of a fan in the background. The important thing now is to slow down. Your shoulders don't need to hold anything. Your thoughts don't need to solve anything. Just listen. The story will do the rest. It all starts with a wedding. But it's not just any wedding. It's the union of a mortal man, Peleus, with a sea goddess, Thetis. A grand celebration, filled with divine guests. All the gods are there, or rather, almost all of them. A single absence changes everything. Eris, the goddess of discord, is not invited. She is not welcome. And as often happens, when you try to ignore discord, it shows up anyway. Eris doesn't shout, doesn't make a fuss, doesn't demand explanations. She simply throws something into the middle of the party. A golden apple, polished, shiny. On it, simple inscription, for the fairest. Enough to turn a banquet into a battlefield. 3 goddesses rise at the same time. Hera, the queen of the gods. Athena, the goddess of wisdom. Aphrodite, the goddess of love. Each believes she is the rightful owner of the apple. None is willing to give it up. Zeus, of course, doesn't want to get involved in this. He's already learned that choosing between goddesses never ends well. So, he delegates. He points to a young Trojan living as a shepherd on Mount Ida, a handsome, absent-minded young man, with the look of someone who still doesn't understand the size of the world. Paris, the one who will judge the goddesses, the one who will decide, without knowing it, the fate of cities, of peoples, of entire centuries. You go with him. You go to the mountain. You feel the wind blowing on the slopes, the smell of the damp earth, the sun filtering through the clouds. The 3 goddesses stand before you. Each one prepares her argument. Hera offers power, dominion over all men. Athena offers wisdom, victory in all battles. Aphrodite offers love, the most beautiful woman in the world. And Paris, well, you can already imagine what he chooses. But it is not time for that yet. Now is the time to rest, to let the tension slowly leave through your fingertips. You do not need to decide anything today, nor understand everything. You just need to allow yourself to listen. With each part of this story, you will sink deeper into time, into sleep, into the memory of the world. So, you close your eyes if you want, or just let your body feel a little heavier. In the next part, we'll go to that party. We'll watch the gods dance, toast, forget for a moment their eternities, until the apple shines in the center of the table and everything starts to fall apart. You are there, not as a guest, not as an intruder, just someone watching from afar, in a quiet corner of the memory of time. The marriage between Peleus, a mortal man, and Thetis, a sea goddess, takes place before the eyes of the immortals. The ceremony is grand, but uncomfortable. Not everyone there believes that such a union should exist. Still, all the gods are there, or almost all of them. The absence of Eris, the goddess of discord, is intentional. Zeus did not want trouble, but ignoring the inconvenience does not prevent the damage. It only postpones it. The party progresses. Ethereal music, full glasses, laughter among gods, who rarely allow themselves to laugh. Thetis, with eyes like the deep sea, seems oblivious to everything. Peleus, mortal and out of place, tries to maintain his composure. There is something uncomfortable about that celebration, perhaps because not everyone there is happy with the fate of the newlyweds. Perhaps because the future of one of their sons has already been prophesied. He will be greater than his father, something the gods never like to hear. You notice when the mood changes. There is no alarm, no thunder, just a new, heavy presence that no one has announced. Eris appears in the center of the party. She doesn't apologize. She doesn't look around. She just reaches out and drops a golden apple on the floor, so shiny that it looks like it just came out of the fire. The inscription, short and cruel, shines in the light of the hall for the most beautiful. The silence that follows is not one of astonishment, but of calculation. Hera, majestic, raises her chin. Athena, with eyes that measure everything, takes a half step forward. Aphrodite smiles. All three know that this provocation is a challenge, and none of them will back down. You feel that no one else matters in that room. Not the bride and groom, not the gods, not the reason for the party. Everything becomes background noise in the face of that unasked question. Who deserves the apple? Zeus, of course, doesn't want to answer. He knows the price of displeasing a goddess, and he prefers to shift the responsibility. He chooses someone from the outside, someone who, in theory, has nothing to lose. A young Trojan shepherd named Paris, handsome, simple, ignorant of the burden he is about to carry, and that's it. A party to celebrate love ends with the seed of a war, not by swords, nor by direct offenses, but by wounded pride, by disputed beauty, by vanity piled upon vanity. Eris did not shout, did not attack, did not demand. She only raised a doubt, and let the gods do the rest. You walk beside Paris. The sky is clear, but the air carries a strange weight, as if the gods are watching silently, waiting to see what you will do. He doesn't quite understand why he has been chosen. He is just a shepherd, or at least he was. Until yesterday, he lived among animals, far from the royal halls, ignorant of his lineage. But now, three immortal goddesses descend from the sky, bathed in light, each demanding to be chosen as the most beautiful. They do not argue. They do not fight. They just look at Paris as if he were a judge in an invisible court. Hera is the first to approach. She speaks firmly. There is no seduction in her voice, only promise. If he chooses her, she will give him power, vast kingdoms, influence over kings and peoples. He will be the most respected man on earth. No door will be closed to him. Athena comes next. Her eyes do not smile. They are cold, calculating. She promises wisdom, clarity of thought, victory in any battle, whether physical or political. He will always have the right word, the right plan, the right advantage. He will never be deceived, never defeated. Aphrodite promises neither power nor victory. She offers desire, not for everyone, just for one, the most beautiful woman in the world, Helen, wife of Menelaus, king of Sparta. A detail she doesn't mention. She only says that Helen will be his, and she smiles. You notice Paris's silence. He doesn't speak, doesn't ask questions, doesn't hesitate out loud, but inside, he's spinning. He doesn't think like a king. He doesn't think like a warrior, and maybe that's why he makes the choice he does. He gives the apple to Aphrodite. On the surface, it seems like a simple decision, wanting the most beautiful woman in the world. But right there, in that moment, a line is drawn. A silent alliance is formed. and a debt begins to grow. Because the other two, Hera and Athena, do not forget, nor do they forgive. Aphrodite keeps her promise, but not immediately. There is still a long way to go, and Helen's name begins to echo with increasing force. Paris returns to Troy, a different person, no longer a shepherd, now prince, a chosen one, but also an agent of chaos, even without knowing it. You may feel like judging him, but think about it. What would you have done? Faced with such vast promises, what would you have chosen? Power? Wisdom? Desire? And what makes us choose one thing over another? What weighs more? What we want, or what we think we should want? Paris doesn't ask this, he just acts. And the wheel of history begins to turn faster. The gods watch. Some are amused, others are angry. Eris, deep down, is perhaps just satisfied, because she wanted nothing more than this, for the beautiful, the wise, and the powerful to begin destroying themselves. You walk down Mount Ida with Paris. His steps are light. He does not yet feel the weight of the choice. He does not yet realize that this decision will mark the end of an era, the ruin of a city, the death of heroes. All this for a golden apple and a whispered promise. But for now, there is silence, only the sound of footsteps on the ground, and the echo of a choice that has not yet shown its price. You are in the harbor of Sparta. The sea shimmers in soft hues. The wind blows lightly, and the gods seem calm, for now. Paris arrived a few days ago as a guest, a foreign prince, welcomed with hospitality by Menelaus, the king. Sparta is rigid, but its doors still open to distinguished travelers. He walks the halls of the palace, surveying the columns, the marble courtyards, the silent servants. But his eyes always return to Helen. Helen is not only beautiful, she has a presence that seems to slow down the world around her. Daughter of Zeus and Leda, raised among kings and oracles, accustomed to being desired, her marriage to Menelaus was sealed by a pact between many kings. They all agreed to protect her if she were taken against her will, a detail that seemed symbolic. Until now, Paris watches her with a mixture of fascination and doubt. Aphrodite promised. But the promise is not a guarantee of love, only of possession. Still, he approaches her, little by little, with measured words. Helena listens to him, maybe out of boredom, maybe out of curiosity, maybe because there is something in her that also yearns for another life. No one knows exactly how it happened. Some say she was kidnapped. Others say she left of her own free will. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. A thoughtless gesture, an escape at dusk, a ship leaving in silence. What matters is that she went with him, and Sparta woke up empty of its queen. You're on deck. The sea is rocking gently, but there's tension in the air. Paris tries to hide her nervousness. Helena watches the horizon with hard-to-read eyes. Neither of them says much. The journey is short, but each mile carries a heavier weight. They're not just running away. They're carrying with them the seeds of war. Menelaus finds out the next day, and he doesn't scream. He just closes himself like a heavy gate that no one else can cross. He remembers the oath. He remembers every king, every sword that promised to protect the honor of that marriage, and he knows what he needs to do. Not for love, not for longing, but for pride, for status, for order. Meanwhile, Troy prepares to welcome the two. Priam, the old king, receives Helen diplomatically. Hector, Paris's older brother, watches everything suspiciously. He sees what Paris does not, that this gesture will cost him dearly, that you do not steal the wife of a Greek king and expect to remain in peace. But Paris is blind, or in love, or convinced that Aphrodite's favor protects him from everything. Helena shows no remorse either, but at night, alone in her room, she might wonder what she left behind, or maybe not. Maybe she already knew that what she lost was not hers. A long time ago, you can feel something in the air that is about to snap, like when the sky goes quiet. Before a storm, Greece begins to stir. A silent call sweeps across the lands. Helen's former suitors receive the news. One by one, they begin to remember the pact and what is at stake if they ignore it. Helen is in Troy, but the whole world goes there to look for her. You are in Argos. The news has spread like wildfire. Helen has been taken by Paris. Menelaus does not scream or cry. He gathers people together. He summons his brother, Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, an ambitious, calculating man. He sees this crisis as an opportunity. It is not just about getting his wife back. It is a chance to unite all the city-states of Greece under a single flag, his own. The ancient pact comes into play, that oath that Helen's suitors made years before, without much thought about what it meant. Now, each one is called to fulfill it, not out of love for the queen, but because their honor is at stake. To refuse would be to admit cowardice, and that, for a Greek warrior, is worse than death. You watch the movement. Ulysses hesitates. He is in Ithaca, with a newborn son, too intelligent to let himself be dragged along without question. He pretends to be crazy, to sow salt in the fields, to walk barefoot, but the trick doesn't work. He is unmasked, and he leaves, resigned, already understanding that returning will be difficult. Achilles is younger, more impulsive, son of Thetis, raised with the certainty that he is special. His mother hides him, dressed as a woman, among the daughters of the king of Cyrus. But the Greeks discover him. Ulysses lures him with weapons among gifts. Achilles chooses the sword. He cannot resist his own destiny. Every king, every prince, every hero joins the army. Diomedes, Nestor, Ajax the Great, Ajax the Lesser. The army grows, ships are built, weapons sharpened, the sea fills with unspoken promises. Some go for glory, others for fear of being forgotten, still others for pride. But almost no one goes for Helen. You see that? She has become a symbol, a name that justifies violence but does not explain it. Ultimately, the war is not about her. It is about dominance, about prestige, about old wounds among the Greeks themselves. Troy is just the pretext. Paris is just the spark. The gods also choose sides. Hera and Athena, hurt by Paris's choice, want revenge. Aphrodite protects the young prince. Apollo, angered by past insults, bows to the Trojans. Zeus watches from afar, as if the game had already begun without him. You feel the weight on the shoulders of the commanders. Agamemnon, increasingly overcome by his thirst for power. Ulysses, already tired before he even leaves. Nestor, old, trying to maintain some balance. Achilles, eager to prove his legend. They all follow, not because they believe in the cause, but because there is no turning back. The ports fill with ships. Thousands of men embark. Many never return. But now, there is still silence. The anticipation is almost worse than the battle. Every man who boards a ship carries unanswered questions, and among them, a very simple one. How many will die for something that could have been avoided with a different choice? You realize that the time of reason is over. The course is set. Greece is going to war. You are in Aulis, a beach shrouded in mist. The Greek army waits there, ready to set off for Troy. Thousands of men, hundreds of ships. But the winds do not blow. The sea is still, mirror-like, as if refusing to cooperate. And time passes, days, then weeks. Impatience grows. The soldiers murmur. Agamemnon, the commander, paces back and forth as if he could resolve the mood with orders. Then a messenger arrives. He comes from the temple of Artemis. He brings an answer, not from the heavens, but from the gods. Artemis is offended. Agamemnon has killed a sacred deer, or boasted too much of his abilities, or simply angered the goddess by existing. It doesn't matter. The price has been set. For the winds to return, he must sacrifice his daughter, Iphigenia. You hear the name being pronounced, as if it were a sentence. Agamemnon turns pale for the first time. He hesitates, but the army is there. The kings are watching, and the glory of a war depends on his decision. He writes a letter to Clytemnestra, his wife, saying that her daughter must come to Aulis to marry Achilles. A lie, a trap. Iphigenia arrives a few days later, smiling, dressed as a bride. She doesn't understand the silence of the men, nor her mother's sharp gaze. Clytemnestra also came, suspicious, trying to understand why no one seems to be celebrating. The revelation comes too late. Achilles, furious at having been used in the deception, threatens to protect the young woman, but it is too late. The machine is already in motion. No sword can contain a god. You follow the procession to the altar. Iphigenia walks with firm steps. She knows, but she doesn't scream. She doesn't beg. Maybe she understands that she is being used for something greater, or maybe she just accepts because there is no alternative. Artemis demands. The sea waits, and all eyes are on her. The moment is dry. A blow. A silence. Some say that Artemis, touched by the young woman's courage, saved her at the last moment, that she exchanged her body for a deer, that she took Iphigenia away, alive, hidden among priestesses. Others swear that the blood really fell on the altar. No one is sure, but the winds return, and that is all that matters to those who wait. The army embarks. The ships set sail. Agamemnon does not look back. Clytemnestra does, and she does not forget. You feel the air change. The war has not yet begun, but it has already claimed its first victim, and it was not a warrior. It was a daughter, an innocent, a reminder that the gods do not ask for permission, they only demand it, and that men, even the most powerful, continue to pay the price for their promises. You are on the open sea. The Greek fleet stretches as far as the eye can see. Hundreds of ships cut through the waves, sails swollen by the newly released wind. Men row in silence, their faces closed, their eyes fixed on the horizon. The journey has been long, but the destination is near. Troy, the city that few have seen, and no one has forgotten. When the coast comes into view, it seems almost too calm. Troy sits on golden hills, surrounded by high, solid walls built by hands said to be guided by gods. The Scamander River winds through the plains. Nothing in the landscape suggests what is to come, but everyone on board feels it. Something is about to begin. Agamemnon commands the landing. Lines are formed, tents are erected, banners are planted in the sand. The war has not yet begun, but their presence is already a threat. The Trojans watch from afar. They do not attack. They just wait in silence. From the top of the walls, Hector watches. He does not underestimate the invaders, but he does not retreat either. Troy does not surrender. The first few days are tense. The Greeks wait for a response, but none comes. So, like so many before them, they do what they know how. They attack. Small villages nearby are looted. This is the tactic. Cut off resources, spread fear. During one of these attacks, a temple of Apollo is invaded. A mistake, a slip-up that will cost them dearly. Chryses, a young priestess, is taken by force. Daughter of a priest of Apollo, Agamemnon takes her as part of the plunder without thinking of the consequences. When her father demands her return, he is ignored. He begs the gods, and Apollo answers. The plague begins silently. One man falls ill, then another. Bodies turn pale, eyes glaze over. Soon, the camp is transformed into a camp of sick people. The priests say it is punishment. The soldiers whisper names. Everyone knows the reason, but few have the courage to confront the king. It is Achilles who stands up, young, strong, impatient with Agamemnon's pride. He demands that crises be returned, that the honor of the gods be respected. Agamemnon gives in, but not without retaliation. He takes Briseis, Achilles' concubine, for himself. A small gesture, but loaded with venom. Achilles doesn't react immediately, but something breaks inside him. He turns away, refuses to fight. He takes with him his armor, his strength, his presence, and the silence that remains in its place weighs more than 1,000 shields. You watch everything with open eyes. The Greeks have arrived, but the war they expected has not started the way they imagined. They are already facing diseases, internal disputes, resentments, and they have not even touched the walls of Troy yet. The city, for now, remains intact, but you already know that the siege has begun. You look at the walls of Troy, tall, solid, as if they were carved to withstand the test of time. They say they were built by Poseidon and Apollo during a brief divine punishment. It doesn't matter if it's true. The fact is that standing there, before them, the largest army in Greece seems small. The first attacks do not work. The walls resist. The gates remain closed. And the city adapts to the siege. The years pass. 1, 2, 3. The Greek countryside becomes a new city. Tents become houses. Children are born. Leaders grow old. War is no longer an event. It is a habit. You walk among the soldiers. Many no longer remember the beginning. Revenge for Helena becomes a vague conversation. Some no longer even care about her. The motivation now is different. Pride, stubbornness, fear of returning home empty-handed. Returning without victory would be the same as being forgotten. Troy also changes. Hector becomes the shield of the city. The people trust him. He is firm, calm, respected. He does not have the arrogance of his brother Paris, nor the fury of the gods. He fights because he must, not for glory, and day after day, he holds the city together with discipline. The battles are constant, but fragmented. Advances are minimal. Retreats are mandatory. Each victory seems partial. The Trojans defend themselves intelligently. They know the terrain and protect their supplies. The Greeks, even in greater numbers, are unable to break the siege. Troy does not fall. It does not surrender. Time wears away. Heroes die. New ones emerge, but everyone, even the bravest, begins to feel the weight. What was supposed to be a quick campaign becomes a burden, and the gods, who at first seemed so active, now watch from afar. Some get involved. Others grow weary. In the Greek camp, the climate is unstable. Internal fights, fragile alliances. Agamemnon tries to maintain control, but his authority is questioned. Achilles, removed, remains immobile, wounded in his pride. Without him, the Greek impetus is diminished, and everyone knows it. You feel time stretching. The seasons change, the stars spin in the sky, but the war remains. It's as if Troy is frozen, but also always on the brink of something. A city surrounded, but never dominated. The Trojans, despite the constant tension, still live. Small parties, discreet ceremonies, weddings, life that resists, life that defies. The city breathes within the walls, as if mocking the invaders who cannot break them. And in the midst of all this, there is a silent waiting, as if something is yet to come, something that will disrupt this balance, something inevitable. You see him from a distance, Ulysses, the only one among the kings who seems more tired of thinking than of fighting. Amidst the brutality of the camps, He walks slowly, attentive to everything. While others measure strength with swords, he measures silences. He observes failures. He calculates responses. Ulysses is not the greatest warrior, nor the most beloved, but no one doubts his importance. He is the one who calms arguments, who argues when tempers flare, who reminds everyone why they are there, even when no one else cares. During the years of the siege, it is Ulysses who keeps the Greek structure standing. He does not command, but he influences. He suggests. He convinces. When one plan fails, he proposes another. When Agamemnon makes a mistake, it is Ulysses who finds a way out. Without him, perhaps the war would have already collapsed from within. You follow his routine. He talks to common soldiers. He listens. He learns. He never isolates himself. He doesn't flaunt his crown. This makes him more trustworthy, but also more solitary. Ulysses carries the war like someone carrying a heavy secret. He knows that victory, if it comes, will not be clean. Not everyone trusts him. Many consider him slippery and manipulative, but no one ignores him. His presence is constant, discreet, but essential. He understands that defeating Troy requires more than strength. It requires patience, disguise, deceit, and a certain amount of cruelty. Ulysses is the one who proposes unconventional actions, espionage, false negotiations, ambushes. He understands the limits of open warfare, and he knows that Troy will only fall if someone is smarter than it. Force is not enough. What keeps the city standing are not just the walls, but the intelligence of those who defend it. Some of his ideas are ignored, others are successfully implemented. He is responsible for small advances, specific victories, subtle weakenings. Nothing spectacular, but enough to keep the fire burning when many were already thinking of giving up. And there is something else. Odysseus realizes that Achilles is the key, not just as a warrior, but as a symbol. Without him, men lose heart. Morale sinks. It is Odysseus who tries, in vain, to bring him back into the fight. He uses direct words, others softer. But Achilles remains absent, locked in his own silence. You can see how Ulysses doesn't let himself get down. Even when everything seems stuck, he keeps moving. There's always a new idea, a last attempt, a small hope. He understands that sometimes time is the only possible ally. While most people act on impulse, he waits for the right moment. War, for Ulysses, is not about glory. It is about survival. It is about precision. He does not seek applause. He seeks the end. And that end is still far away. But Ulysses is already beginning to imagine it. You stand on the edge of the Greek camp, where the sea meets the sand, and fury turns to silence. Achilles no longer appears on the battlefield. His absence is a gap in the rhythm of war. Soldiers whisper, captains hide their concern. Everyone knows, without him, victory is far away. Achilles is more than a warrior. He is impact, speed, and the certainty that someone will always win in hand-to-hand combat. His name spread throughout Greece, even before he arrived. Son of Thetis, trained by Chiron, half man, half myth. When Achilles enters combat, the enemy retreats before he can even raise his shield. But now he is standing still, isolated, wounded not in body, but in pride. The cause is known. Agamemnon took Briseis, his concubine, as compensation for having been forced to return Chryses, the daughter of the priest of Apollo. A petty act, but symbolic. Agamemnon wanted to remind who is in charge, and he reminded them in the worst way. Achilles did not respond with violence. He did not shout. He did not engage in confrontation. He simply withdrew, and that had more impact than any attack. The camp felt the emptiness. The advance stalled. Greek confidence shattered like pottery on the floor. You walk close to his tent. You hear the muffled sound of the waves. Achilles doesn't sleep much. He stays awake for hours, staring at the sea. Briseis has already been taken. The gods, silent, do not intervene. Not even Thetis can convince him to give in. He feels he has been disrespected, not as a lover, but as a sacred figure. Ulysses tries to argue. Nestor tries to advise. But nothing changes. Achilles is not only young and impetuous, he has conviction, and it is firm. He will no longer fight for a king who humiliates him. He can die in war, yes, but he cannot live being diminished. The troops feel the effects. Minor battles are lost, morale drops, tension rises, but Agamemnon refuses to back down. His pride rivals that of Achilles, and in this impasse, the Trojans gain momentum. Hector takes advantage. He advances with strategy, strength, and respect. Each Trojan victory reinforces the Greek error. You see the paradox. Achilles, far away, still dominates the war by his absence, by the fear he provokes. Even when he is still, the war moves around him, as if everyone is waiting for his decision, his return, his final choice. But he remains silent, and the war begins to darken. You are closer now, closer to the tent, where Achilles remains silent, while the world around him consumes itself with battles, losses, and frustrations. Within that contained space, there is someone who enters without knocking, who sits without asking permission, who speaks without fear. Patroclus, the only one Achilles listens to. They grew up together. They learned together. No matter what you call their relationship, friend, brother, lover, what exists between them is a trust no one else shares. And now Patroclus is restless. He sees the Greeks falling. He sees Hector advancing. He sees chaos spreading, and he feels Achilles' absence like a cut. Patroclus tries to talk. Achilles listens, but doesn't change. The anger is still there. The disappointment is too. He doesn't want to help Agamemnon. He doesn't want to fight for an army that disrespects him. But Patroclus talks about something else. Not about honor, but about duty. About men dying. About the screams that pierce the night. One day, Patroclus makes a request. He wants to wear Achilles' armor, just for one day, just to scare the Trojans, make them think that the great hero has returned. Achilles hesitates. He looks at his friend's face. Searching for some doubt, he finds none, and he gives in, but on one condition: not to cross the gates of Troy, just to stop the advance, just to protect. You see Patroclus come out, his armor shining. The soldiers see him and shout with hope. The Trojans hesitate. They think Achilles has returned. Fear spreads. Luck changes for a few hours. The Greeks regain ground. Spirits are reborn. But it does not last. Patroclus gets excited. He goes further. He goes beyond the limits. He goes straight to the walls of Troy, and there he finds Hector. The two fight. There is no hesitation. Hector wins. He kills Patroclus, without knowing, at that moment, that he has sealed his own fate. The body falls, the armor is removed, the identity is revealed. It was not Achilles, it was someone else, and this discovery spreads like wildfire. The Trojans rejoice, the Greeks are silent, Achilles receives the news in silence, and then the fury, a kind of pain that does not scream, but burns. He does not blame Hector or the gods. He blames himself for standing aside, for letting Patroclus go in his place, for choosing pride when he should have chosen his friend. You see him standing there, without his armor, with dry eyes. Those who thought he had already felt anger were mistaken. This is something else. The war changes tone. Achilles will return. You are in the Greek countryside, where the silence is no longer one of mourning, it is one of tension. Achilles has returned. There is no speech, there is no ceremony, just a new kind of presence. More weighty, more direct. He does not wear the old armor. It went with Patroclus. In its place, Hephaestus forges a new one, a gift requested by Thetis, the mother who tries to protect what she already feels lost. The armor gleams like something that does not belong to the world of men. It reflects light, but also the fury of its wearer. Achilles does not want glory. He wants justice, or revenge, or perhaps he just wants something to lessen the void left by Patroclus. You follow him as he walks into battle. The soldiers instinctively back away, not for fear of death, but of what comes before. Unbridled rage, the Trojans see him from afar and know their luck has turned. Death is coming. Achilles attacks as if he had no intention of turning back. There is no calculation. There is no defense. He breaks ranks, destroys human walls, pierces spears as if his body did not matter. Screams do not reach him. Pleas do not move him. Everything points to one name, Hector. Troy watches. Hector does not run. He knows there is no escape. He walks to the gates, where the gods hesitate to intervene. They have tried to protect men before. Now, perhaps it is too late. You see the encounter. Two warriors in the center of the plain. One carrying the weight of loss, the other, the duty to protect. They stare at each other. They say little. Time there does not allow for explanations. The fight begins. It is fast, intense. Hector resists, but Achilles is beyond tiredness, beyond pain. A well-aimed blow ends the fight. Hector falls. The earth receives him. Achilles does not stop. He ties the enemy's body by the heels, attaches it to the chariot, and drags it in front of the walls. Troy watches in despair. Priam, the king, falls to his knees. Andromache, his wife, screams. And Astyanax, his young son, still does not understand what he has lost. You feel the exaggeration, the fury transformed into cruelty. Achilles no longer knows how to separate justice from outrage. He undoes the enemy's body because he cannot undo the pain within himself. The gods watch, and they begin to get annoyed. Troy does not fall that day, but something breaks. Not just in Hector, not just in Priam, in Achilles too. For the first time, he feels that not even revenge can give back what was taken. He has won, but he does not feel any less empty. The battlefield returns to silence, and the night spreads with a new weight. You stand before a tent. It is night, but no ordinary night. The Greek camp sleeps, exhausted except for one. Achilles remains awake, sitting alone, his armor beside him. Hector's body, still tied to the chariot, lies nearby, covered in dust and contempt. He has been dragged for days, a gesture that not even the gods tolerate anymore. And now, something rare is about to happen. Priam, the king of Troy, enters the camp, old, bent, his face dark with grief. He has come alone, protected only by Hermes, who guides his steps unseen. No guards prevent this. No spears are raised. It is as if time itself holds its breath. You watch him walk through the rows of tents, ignoring the surprised looks. He walks straight to Achilles' tent, not with arrogance, not with defiance, just with the pain of a father who has lost everything but his courage. Achilles sees him enter. He stands up, surprised, suspicious, but he doesn't speak. Priam kneels. He kisses the hand that killed his son, and in a low voice, he asks for Hector's body. He doesn't beg for justice, nor for forgiveness, only for dignity. The scene is not grand, it is silent. No screams, no forced tears. Just two figures destroyed by a war that has gone too far. Priam speaks of his son, of the boy who ran across the courtyard, of the man who defended his city. He does not try to convince Achilles. He just says what he feels. Achilles listens. Something inside him breaks, or opens. For the first time in days, he sees the face of a father. and remembers his own. Peleus, old, distant, waiting for a son who may never return. He sees in Priam the reflection of a possible future, and he realizes no victory can make up for this kind of loss. You feel the mood change, anger gives way to mutual recognition. These are not enemies here. These are wounded men, trapped in roles bigger than themselves. Achilles kneels too. He touches the king's shoulder and promises to return the body. He prepares the corpse with respect. He washes it, wraps it in clean cloth. He asks the gods to forgive him. He does not try to justify his actions. He simply puts them to rest. A simple gesture, human, necessary. The next morning, Priam leaves with the body. The Greeks watch in silence. No one stops him. No one provokes him. For 9 days, the Trojans mourn and bury their hero. And for a rare moment, there is no fighting, only mourning, only silence, only the truce that death imposes. You see the end approaching. Not in a hurry, but surely Achilles has fought again, and with him have come new victories. Troy begins to give way. The walls still stand, but within them, despair grows. The days are shorter. So are the hopes. Achilles seems invincible, but even the gods have limits. Paris, until then overshadowed, watches from afar. He is not a warrior like Hector. He does not have the strength of Ajax or the reasoning of Ulysses, but he has allies, and among them, Apollo, the god who never forgot the desecrated temple, the god who saw Achilles defy even the divine order itself. During a battle on the outskirts of the city, Apollo guides Paris. The arrow is carefully prepared, anointed with the silent fury of those who wait. Achilles is on the field, advancing as he always did, without hesitation. The arrow flies. It does not hit his chest or his arm. It goes straight to his heel, the one spot his mother could not protect. You hear the dry sound of the fall. The body that seemed indestructible hits the ground. The soldiers around him stop. The Trojans hesitate. The Greeks panic. Achilles tries to get up, but the pain is permanent. He understands what happened. He knows there is no going back. Thetis feels it, even from afar. She comes down from the sea with tears in her eyes, but no amount of prayer can undo what has been done. Achilles dies as he lived, aware of his destiny, proud to the end. He always knew, that he would choose a short and glorious life, and now it has come to an end. You see the Greeks surrounding your body. No one speaks. No one moves immediately. It is difficult to accept that the one who led by his mere presence is now just a body on the ground. Mourning spreads quickly. Agamemnon tries to maintain order. Ulysses organizes the rituals. The warriors lay down weapons around the funeral pyre. It is a silent but intense ceremony, a farewell not only to a man, but to an era. Achilles is cremated. His ashes are kept with those of Patroclus. Finally, they are united after so many separate battles. The sea, in the background, carries the sound of the bonfire, and the war continues, even with its greatest warrior absent. Troy stands firm, but now you know you have won something. Not war, but fear of Achilles. And yet, peace is not enough, because other heroes still have scores to settle, and no one wants to go home without something to show for it. You are standing before a suit of armor, not just any suit of armor. It is that of Achilles, forged by Hephaestus, worn by a man who is now a legend. Its brilliance remains, even without the body that wore it, and like every symbol left behind, it becomes an object of dispute. Two names emerge with force: Ajax, the greatest in brute strength, and Ulysses, the master of cunning. Both fought alongside Achilles. Both believe they deserve the legacy, but what is at stake is not just armor. It is recognition, the weight of being remembered as the successor of a hero. Ajax speaks first. He does not use embellishments. His logic is simple. He saved bodies, protected ships, faced enemies with courage. He is the ideal warrior, strong, direct, constant. He sees the contest as unfair. For him, actions speak for themselves. Ulysses responds with another weapon, words. He does not show off his muscles, but his arguments. He talks about the times he saved his troops with ideas, not with spears. He reminds us that defeating Troy will require more than strength. It will be necessary to deceive, think, and improvise. And no one does it like him. The leaders decide. The armor goes to Ulysses. Ajax doesn't react immediately, but inside, something begins to crack. He has been humiliated, not because he lost, but because he feels that his voice was worthless. War has always exalted the brave. Now, it seems that only the clever win. You follow him as he walks away, alone among the tents. Ajax doesn't speak to anyone. He tries to understand how he lost. He tries to find logic where there is only disappointment. During the night, his mind breaks. In silence, he goes mad. Confused and filled with rage, Ajax goes out armed. He thinks of attacking the leaders. But the gods confuse him. He kills animals, believing them to be soldiers. When the fog clears, he sees the blood, the bodies, the deception. He understands what he did. He doesn't cry. He doesn't justify himself. He goes to the seashore, sticks his sword in the ground, and throws himself at it. Ajax's body is found in the morning, stiff, silent, with his pride buried with him. You feel that the war, even without battles that day, has claimed another victim, not because of the enemy's spear, but because of disappointment, because of the feeling of being left behind. The armor remains with Ulysses, but the price of victory is yet another loss, and the war silently continues to consume the heroes themselves. You are in the 9th year of war. The ground is dry, the tents are worn, the faces are aged. No one speaks of glory anymore. They speak of time, of longing, of return. Troy still stands. Every attempt at invasion has failed. Every trick has been undone. The city resists as if it were made of will, not stone. The Greek leaders gather. There is no enthusiasm, only necessity. Odysseus proposes something strange, a gift, a symbol of surrender. A horse made of wood, large, hollow inside, so large it can hide armed men. The others hesitate. It is risky, but everything safe has been tried. The idea is simple. Pretend that the Greeks have given up, that they have left, tired, leaving a gift to the gods as a final gesture. Meanwhile, a group would hide inside the statue. When the Trojans brought the horse into the city, believing they had won, the men would go out at night, open the gates, and call the armies hidden in the distance. You watch the construction. It is slow, meticulous. Every detail reinforces the illusion. The horse takes shape in front of the sea. It is an imposing but harmless figure. Nearby, the Greek camp begins to be dismantled. Fires are extinguished, sails are hoisted, and the ships set off, or at least pretend to set off. The group chosen to enter the horse is small. Odysseus is in the lead. Also, with him are Menelaus, Neoptolemus, son of Achilles, and some of the best warriors still alive. You see them enter, one by one, carrying swords and silence. The hatch is closed. The plan begins. The Trojans find the horse the next morning. They cautiously descend from the walls. They see the gift. They see the abandoned camp. There are no Greeks, only that quiet colossus. Left as an offering, the city is filled with theories. Some want to destroy it. Others say it is a sign of victory, a gift from the gods, proof that Troy has won. This is when doubt sets in. A priest, Laocoon, begs for the horse to be burned. He says it is a trap. He throws his spear at the statue's side. The sound echoes hollowly. But no one really hears it. Shortly after, he and his sons are killed by serpents that come out of the sea. For the Trojans, this is a sign of divine punishment. The statue must be accepted. You see how Ulysses' plan is based not only on logic, but on the enemy's weariness. Troy wants to believe in peace. It wants everything to end. The horse is pulled inside, and the city, for the first time in years, celebrates. But what seems like relief is just the beginning of the end. You are inside the walls now. Troy is throbbing. After so many years, the war seems to be over. The horse stands in the center of the city, giant, silent, made of dark wood. The population celebrates. Children touch its base. Old men raise glasses. The doors are open. The wine flows. The music returns. It is as if the pain had been forgotten overnight, but not everyone smiles. Cassandra watches from the palace balcony. She sees the horse. She sees the relieved faces, and she feels the mistake. Not because she heard rumors, but because she knows. Since she was a little girl, she has carried the gift of sight and the curse of never being believed, a gift from Apollo that has become a punishment. She screams. She says the horse is a trap, that there are men hiding inside it, that this piece is false. Nobody listens. They know her. They have ignored her prophecies before, and when none of them have prevented suffering, they have decided she has gone mad. Her screams are now noise, part of the landscape. Laocoon tried before. He was a priest. He was respected, but he dared to say what he thought. He threw a spear at the horse. He asked that the gift be burned. He was not listened to. And then the serpents came. 2 creatures from the sea. They wrapped themselves around him and his sons. They killed the 3 of them in front of everyone. It was brutal, quick, and interpreted as a sign from the gods. You see the absurdity. The deaths, instead of raising awareness, reinforced the illusion. If even a priest was punished, then the horse must be sacred. That was the conclusion. The city wants to believe, not because it is foolish, but because it is tired. Troy can no longer bear to be suspicious. It can no longer bear to defend itself. The desire for an end speaks louder than the fear of deception. Cassandra continues. She speaks, gestures, begs, but she is dragged inside, silent as always. And the day turns to night. You feel the air heavy. A strange silence hangs over you, the kind of silence that precedes the irreversible. Troy sleeps, and in the belly of the horse, no one sleeps. You are inside the longest night in Troy. The streets are empty. The gates are closed. Inside the horse, the Greeks wait. Ulysses does not breathe loudly. Menelaus holds the sword. Every movement is restrained. Time seems to stand still. The city is asleep. Drunk with false victory, fatigue has overcome caution. No guards have been reinforced. The posts are inattentive. Only Cassandra is awake, sitting, with her eyes open, seeing what no one else wants to see. She no longer speaks. She has already understood that words have lost their value. Outside, the Greek ships, once distant, return silently along the coast. They row without light, guided by the moon. The farce was perfect. Troy believed it. And now, there is no way back. The horse hatch opens slowly. A figure steps out, then another, and another. The Greeks jump to the ground, scattering in silence. The gates are opened. Signals are given. The ships arrive. The city is exposed. You hear the first scream. It's not war. It's someone waking up in the middle of a nightmare. Then, the sound of swords, the fire, the confusion. No Trojan plan has been activated. No formation has been organized. There is no defense, only despair. Ulysses leads the way through the alleys. Menelaus rushes to the palace. Neoptolemus, young and ruthless, breaks through any resistance. The massacre is swift but not hasty. Every house invaded is an end. Every face encountered is a sealed fate. At the top of the city, Priam takes refuge at the altar, an old king who has seen it all. But even the gods do not protect him. Neoptolemus finds him. The scene is cruel. A father, a king, faced with the murderer of his own son. And yet, death is cold, direct, unceremonious. You see Helen, hidden. She doesn't run. She doesn't scream. Menelaus finds her. For a moment, everyone waits for the outcome, but he hesitates. He doesn't kill her. Maybe out of memory, maybe out of cowardice, maybe for something that even he doesn't understand. She becomes his wife again, or a prisoner. It depends on how you look at it. The temples are looted, the statues are destroyed, the gold of the gods is stolen, the women are dragged away as spoils. Andromache, Hector's widow, is taken. Hecuba, the queen mother, loses everything. Cassandra is carried off by Agamemnon, laughing, shouting, foreseeing what no one will hear. At dawn, Troy is no more, only ruins, embers, and echo. You walk through the ruins. Troy burned from within. Now the wind carries away the smoke, and what remains is what is left of silence. Dead men, desecrated temples, ignored gods. But what remains most are the eyes of women. They have no weapons. They did not participate in the decisions, but now they bear the price of all of them. Andromache, formerly Hector's wife, holds her little son in her arms. Astyanax does not understand. She understands too much. She knows that he is the heir of a hero. She knows that the Greeks will not allow a new Hector to grow up. You see them take him, not in a hurry, not with mercy. They throw him from the walls. His body falls, and the future of Troy falls with it. Andromache does not cry. She stands still. She is taken as a slave. She goes to the house of Neoptolemus, her husband's murderer. A cruel and repeated cycle. Hecuba, the queen mother, walks among the rubble. She has no more children, no husband, no throne, only her name, and that name is worth nothing anymore. Crouching near the destroyed altar, she touches the stones with worn fingers. Then she is taken away by some ship to a destination that has not been told. Cassandra is in the center, dirty face, clear eyes, shouting what no one wants to hear anymore. Agamemnon claims her, takes her as a prize. She doesn't resist. She only says what will happen. She says that he will die, that she will die, that everyone pretends not to see the end. Even when he is in front, you look at the other women, the anonymous ones, the ones who don't have names in the poems. Mothers, daughters, servants, all separated, all transported. They are spoils. They are part of the loot. The Greeks distribute them as if they were objects. Each one represents the memory of the city, and so they are taken far away so that Troy will not return. No one builds a new temple. No altar is rebuilt. Ashes are not honored. Victory leaves no room for mourning. What was sacred has become plunder. What was life has become possession. You feel the weight. There is no singing, no celebration. The conquest is bittersweet. The men go home with trophies they didn't ask for, and the women, they don't come back. Troy did not fall in a day, nor did it disappear completely. It lived on in these women, taken in silence, but carrying stories, names, and memories. And this is the kind of defeat that is never total. You are at sea again. Not the same as before. This one is heavier. It carries the remains of a long, bitter war, victorious in name, but empty in heart. The ships return full of gold, prisoners, Longan and omens. The wind does not blow the same way. The gods, once so present, now watch in silence. Some smile, others turn their faces away. Agamemnon returns to Mycenae. He brings Cassandra as a prisoner, but arrives at a house that has not forgotten Iphigenia. Clytemnestra, his wife, awaits him with an old anger. Their reunion is not a celebration. It is a trial. On the first night, while he is resting in a bath, she kills him. Cold. Quick. Cassandra dies too, as she had foreseen. No hero is safe within his own walls. You watch Menelaus. He takes Helen back, the woman for whom the war began. But nothing is the same. They look at each other like strangers. They sleep in silence. The beauty is still there, but it is tired, and so is he. Maybe they won, but what is left of love? Or of the will to start over? Ulysses does not return soon. His journey takes 10 years. He faces monsters, gods, storms, everything a creative mind could fear. But what really haunts him is time, the doubt whether Ithaca is still waiting for him, whether Penelope still recognizes him, whether he himself is still the one who left. Some heroes never return. Others get lost on confusing routes. The sea takes its toll, and even those who arrive find their homes changed, children grown, faces aged, chairs empty. The glory they imagined during the war does not come to fruition. The world has moved on without them. You realize that victory was only a name. The cost was high. Troy fell, but what the Greeks took back does not fill the void that was left. Gold does not compensate for time, and time forgives no one. The heroes return mute. They carry stories that no one wants to hear. Families who expected hugs receive distant looks. The war does not end when the fight ends. It continues in the gestures, in the silences, in the dreams that repeat themselves. Troy fell, but in many of them, she never left. You move away from the world of men. You climb slowly along an invisible path where footsteps make no sound. And up there, they are, the gods, sitting in silence. No temple, no ritual, just presence. They observe everything from afar. The wars, the choices, the consequences. Zeus is there. He says nothing. He saw everything unfold as predicted. You know that men do what they do, even if they don't understand. Beside him, Hera watches in silence. Athena, too, both wounded by a choice that happened years before, but that they never left behind. Aphrodite, victorious in appearance, is silent. She got what she wanted. Paris chose her gift. But what came next? Troy in flames. Helen with a blank stare. No beauty justifies so much blood. Apollo is restless. He remembers the desecrated temple, the plague he unleashed, the guided arrow, and he wonders if revenge served any purpose beyond the moment. Artemis, at his side, contemplates the memory of Iphigenia, the young woman who was given in exchange for wind. You realize that, despite the divine appearance, there is uncertainty there. The gods are not made of stone. They also repent. They also get tired of repeating the same cycles with different faces. Hermes crosses the sky in silence. He carried messages, guided souls, watched the outcome without getting attached. Dionysus does not appear. Perhaps he does not find what happened funny. There is a pause, as if even they are trying to understand why. The war began with an apple, a game of vanity, a futile choice that turned into tragedy. The gods, out of pride, let the wheel turn. And now that it has stopped, what is left? You understand that this is not a judgment. There will be no formal punishment, no forgiveness, just the realization that everything has followed its course, that men and gods are moved by desires that rarely stand the test of time. Troy fell. The heroes returned, or not. The kings died. The women were taken, but the story remained, carried by bards, by songs, by tired voices, because deep down, telling is the only way to endure. The gods know this. They don't need to sleep, but they like to listen, and maybe that's why they're still there. You return to the ground. The dust has settled. The ashes of Troy have been blown away by the wind, but the scars of war remain. Not on the fields, on the bodies, on the faces, in the decisions that still bleed. The heroes, Those who survived do not rest. They try to get their lives back on track. But the war has shaped them in a way that will not disappear. Ulysses sails aimlessly, facing external monsters that seem like metaphors for internal wounds. On each island, a memory. On each goddess, a promise that is not fulfilled. Agamemnon did not have time to grow old. He was killed upon arriving home, a victim of the resentment he himself had nurtured. Neoptolemus, too young for so much glory, repeats the mistakes of his elders without understanding the cost. Violence has become a habit, and it does not end when the war ends. You walk among the survivors. You realize that victory has brought no relief, only a strange pause. The men return, but they do not return whole. Some talk too much. Others are silent. Everyone dreams of screams. Everyone wakes up with fright. The women, taken as prizes, try to resist in another way, without weapons, with silence, with memory, with the weight of stories that no one wants to hear. Violence continues in new forms. Palaces fight for power. Children turn against parents. The gods, even when absent, are still invoked as an excuse. The cycle continues because no one has learned, or perhaps because no one wanted to stop. You realize that the Trojan War was not unique. It was just another one, a reflection of something deeper, the fear of losing, the desire to control, the vanity of wanting to be remembered, even if through tragedy. Heroes age badly. Those who did not die in combat are lost in time. They become statues, verses, but few sleep in peace. And now you begin to understand. Too much glory is tiring, and every war leaves traces that cannot be erased with time. You see her sitting by the window. The palace is the same, but she is not. Helen has returned to Sparta, to the throne beside Menelaus. But there is no reception, no celebration, just silence, the kind of silence that accompanies someone who was once a reason for war and is now an uncomfortable memory. She is still beautiful, but beauty weighs heavily. Wherever she goes, eyes look away, not out of respect, out of discomfort. Everyone knows her name. Everyone thinks they know her story, but no one asks. They prefer to believe the versions they heard, that she was kidnapped, that she betrayed, that she caused it. It doesn't matter what is true. Menelaus lives with her, as if he were living with a shadow. There is no explicit hatred, nor clear love, only coexistence. Helen wakes up every day, walks the same corridors, sits at the same table, but she is always somewhere else. You realize she has nowhere to go. Troy has fallen. Paris is dead. The two worlds that fought over her no longer exist, and she stands among invisible ruins, surrounded by intact walls. Her loneliness is not made of absence. It is made of constant presence. People around her, but not listening. Everything she says is filtered by judgments that no one verbalizes. She could scream, tell her version, but she chose silence, not to protect herself, but because she understood that words, for her, are not enough. You think of what Paris was promised, the most beautiful woman in the world, as if that were enough, as if beauty were shelter. Helen never asked to be a symbol. She was made into one, first by the gods, then by men, now by poets. She has become a name bigger than the person, and she lives within that name, like someone who occupies a house she never chose. Servants observe her with contained curiosity. The counselors do not contradict her, but they do not include her either. The people avoid mentioning the past, but they never forget it, and Helena walks between these spaces calmly. She does not try to please. She does not try to escape. She just continues. You realize, little by little, that she doesn't expect forgiveness. She doesn't even try to justify herself. She has accepted the place she was given, but she refuses to be destroyed by it. That is the cruelest thing, and perhaps the strongest. Helena is not innocent. But she is not guilty either, as they say. She simply existed in a way that the world could not bear. And now, in the end, all that's left is her, alone, whole, and hopelessly misunderstood. You walk across an empty field. There are no screams, no steel clashing against shield, only wind and ashes. Troy is a memory. The ships have sailed. The gods have fallen silent. Now, all that remains is the aftermath. There are no songs. No bard plays his lyre. No square fills to hear stories. People return to their simple tasks. Harvesting, caring, forgetting. But forgetting is not so easy. The body returns before the mind, and memory insists. You realize that the silence after war is not peace. It is absence, a space where no one knows what to say, where even questions seem dangerous. Why did we fight? For whom? Was it worth it? These questions echo, but no one answers. Maybe because no one knows, or because everyone is afraid of the answer. In the villages around ancient Troy, there are orphaned children, weary women, old men who have seen too much. They are not among the great, but they have been affected. They have lost their homes, their children, their routines. They have been pierced by history, as if by an invisible spear. You walk through these ruins, not the visible ones, of stone and fire, but the ones inside. People who don't cry, because there's no energy left. Who don't speak, because no one listens. The war passed through them, but it didn't take everything. It left enough to hurt. Survivors live with the bare minimum. Rebuilding is not about rebuilding walls. It is about relearning how to sleep without feeling uneasy. It is about relearning how to trust. It is about not looking at the horizon in fear of approaching sails. And in the kingdoms of the victors, the silence is different, a kind of discomfort that hides behind banquets and speeches. They speak of glory, but avoid details. The words are too pure for the acts that preceded them. You realize this. The glory told never resembles what was lived. Heroes, when they speak little. Some walk away. Others become hard. None of them came back the same. The war is over, but nothing is back to the way it was before, because what was destroyed is not visible. It is in the way people avoid touching each other, in the way fires are put out early, in the way silence spreads. You feel it. This is the real end, not with an explosion, but what comes next. You go back to the beginning, the party, the apple, the inscription, for the fairest. 3 goddesses, a young shepherd, one choice. So simple, so small, but it was enough to change everything. Paris chose Aphrodite, and so he gained Helen, and so Troy fell, and so thousands died. But was that all? An isolated choice, a divine whim, a game of vanity, or was there something deeper? You start to think about the choices that seemed small, how each decision carries consequences that are not seen at the time. Zeus's choice not to intervene, the choice of each king who answered the call to war, the choice to fight when one could retreat, and even they are burdened with ghosts. The temple of Apollo is in ruins, no offerings on the altar, no chants in the air. Cassandra foresaw everything, but no one would listen. Priam lost everything but his dignity. Andromache was taken. Helen remained, and you, perhaps you understood something between one battle and another. The poets keep singing, and those who listen often hear only the brightest part. Heroes, shields, conquests. But now, you know what was between the verses, the pauses, the doubts, the costs. Because deep down, every war is born from a small mistake, and every small mistake comes from a desire that is too big. The story ends slowly, like Troy, not with a bang, but with a slow burn, in ashes that spread and touch those who never even fought, a city that fell, so that everyone could learn, and yet the world kept forgetting. But now you know, And what has been seen cannot be unseen. You walk through a land that no longer remembers names. The wind blows over forgotten hills, over broken temples, over rivers that once marked borders. There are no more armies, no shields, but there are still echoes, because even when the war ends, what it leaves behind remains. The survivors are not the strongest. They are the ones who held on, who kept walking, who accepted not understanding everything. Some rebuilt villages, others continued on boats in search of silence. None of them wanted to tell the story, but someone told it for them, and the story grew. Ulysses, upon returning to Ithaca, met Penelope again, but it was not a romantic reunion. It was strange. He, full of the sea, she, full of waiting. The two were different, but still there. They tried to live with what was left, and that, in itself, was courageous. Andromache survived. She created a new home in a foreign land. She did not forget Troy, but learned to breathe elsewhere. Hecuba grew old with dignity, even when no one treated her as a queen anymore. Each one carried the name of her city like a scar. You realize that there is no return to normal. What exists is a new way of being, with memories, with marks, with simpler days, which still weigh heavily. The children who grew up afterward did not see the war, but they inherited its consequences. They heard stories, they learned names, they sang songs without knowing what they meant, and that is where the legacy is formed, not in stones, but in tales whispered around the fire. Troy became an example of pride, of error, of dangerous beauty. The gods became a warning, and men, well, men continued to desire, to choose, to make mistakes, as always. But among them, some remembered, and that made all the difference. You climbed forgotten paths. Where there were once altars, now there is stone and moss. The temples of the gods are empty. No one offers wine anymore. No one burns incense. Time has passed, and with it, faith has passed. The old gods did not disappear all at once. First they were ignored, then they were reinterpreted, then they were replaced. But for a time, they were still there, watching, waiting, watching the world change without being able to intervene as before. Zeus, the lord of the heavens, stopped throwing lightning bolts. Hera grew tired of jealousy and revenge. Aphrodite was no longer invoked at weddings. Athena saw her wisdom being disputed by men who no longer asked for advice. Apollo silenced his lyre. Artemis gathered her arrows. Even Ares, the god of war, fell silent, not for lack of conflict, but for irrelevance. You imagine them on an empty Olympus, sitting, no longer as kings of the world, but as powerful memories, names engraved in stone, images on cracked vases. They, who decided destinies with a gesture, are now characters. But what remains of a god when no one believes anymore? Perhaps the answer lies in dreams, in ideas that persist, in human impulses that have never completely changed. Because although names fade, symbols remain. Vanity still divides. Honor still leads to war. Desire still transforms lives. You understand, gods do not die like men. They die slowly, replaced by new truths, new stories. But they never disappear completely. They live in repetitions, in the mistakes that are repeated, in the phrases that echo as a warning. The end of the gods was not a tragedy, it was a respite. After centuries of guiding men, perhaps they just wanted to stop, to observe what we would do on our own. And we continue, with our own wars, with our own judgments. But the old gods still lurk in the corners of memory. Every time someone asks, "What if I chose differently?" they smile. And wait. You hear it before you see it. A soft melody coming from somewhere between the sea and the ruins. It is not a song of victory, nor of lament. It is older than that. It is the song of Troy, the one that has been passed down from mouth to mouth, from generation to generation, always a little different, but always with the same heart. It has no chorus. It has no exact rhyme. It changes over time. Sometimes it begins with Paris, sometimes with Helen, sometimes it highlights Achilles, sometimes Hector, sometimes it focuses on the women left behind, sometimes on the gods who gave up on men. But the pain is always the same, and so is the amazement. You realize that there is no owner of this song. The bards did not invent it. They only collected it from broken voices, from eyes that have seen too much. It echoes in abandoned ports, in the empty corridors of palaces, in the veins of the mountains where mothers call for their children who never returned. Troy did not survive as a city, but it survived as music, because the song carries what the stone does not hold, feeling. And feeling does not need a place, only time. Homer was one of those who listened. He wasn't the first, nor the last, but he was the one who gave form, who tried to put a beginning and an end where there was only flow. He joined names, shaped scenes, turned a fire into an epic, and the world listened. You understand that this song is not meant to teach. It is meant to remind that every choice has a trail, that every beauty has a weight, that there are not always villains and heroes. Sometimes there are only humans trying to get it right amidst the noise. Troy has become a symbol, but the song makes it come alive, because every time it is told, it is reborn in new voices, in new ears, in new mistakes that are recognized. And you now are part of it too. You hear them, even without knowing where they come from. Voices in the dark. Some whisper, others murmur names. None are clear. None want to be forgotten. They are echoes of those who did not fit into the poems, of those who did not earn statues, but who lived every bit of history. They are the servants who disposed of the bodies after the battle, the messengers who ran between tents with orders they did not understand, the mothers who were not consulted when their children left, the fathers who buried more than they could carry. They are the ones who saw it all and could change nothing. You walk among them. You don't see them, but you feel them. Each step seems to cross a silence full of memories. Here, no one talks about glory, only about permanence, about how difficult it is to carry on when the world turns gray inside. The voices do not ask for justice. They ask for memory, for someone to remember, for someone to know that they existed, that their names, even erased, left marks in places that do not appear on maps. Some are calm, others are still in shock. Some tell the story as if it were yesterday. Others repeat phrases stuck in the moment when everything changed. All of them, in some way, are trying to get out of the darkness. You realize that they are not ghosts. They are stories. They are parts of the war that no one wanted to record, because they were simple, because they had no heroism. But without them, nothing would have happened. It's easy to forget the little ones, because the world runs after the big ones. But it's the little ones who hold everything up, and when they fall, no one hears the noise. Now you listen, and maybe, just maybe, that will be enough to make the voices lighter. You are at the end, not the end of the gods, nor of men, but the end of the journey, the end of history, the last fold of memory. You look back. You see the trail left by the golden apple, by Paris's steps, by Helen's choices, by Ulysses' words, by the deaths, the ruins, the erased names. But you also see what was not said, the pauses, the silences, the averted glances, and you understand that, deep down, it was all real. Even what seems exaggerated, even what has become legend, because every legend is born from a memory that hurt so much that it needed to be told in a different way. Troy burned, but before that, it lived. And it doesn't matter if the number of ships was right. or if the gods really did come down from the heavens. What matters is what's left, and what's left is you. Yes, you, who walked through every part of this story, who saw the party, the discord, the trial, the escape, the siege, the sacrifice, the silence, the scream, the fall, the march of the survivors, who saw the choices being made and the consequences piling up. You who could not stop anything, but heard everything. And now you carry this with you. This is the last memory, not the most important, but the quietest, the one that comes when no one else is talking, when everyone has gone, when the voices have stopped, only you remain. And this memory that has no shape, but has weight. You remember Priam asking for his son's body, Andromache holding her son in her arms, Ulysses tired, Helen motionless, Achilles in silence, Cassandra talking to herself. You remember because you saw it, you felt it, and now it is stored, not as a scar, not as a lesson, but as a part. You understand that the story doesn't end, because there will always be new Troys, new horses, new choices disguised as destiny. But now, perhaps you see things with different eyes, with less haste, with more listening, because that's the last memory, knowing that it all started with a simple question, and no one wanted to hear the answer. Good night.